Hey Harmony House! Welcome back to Chapter Book Story Time. Today we are going to continue reading The Magic Misfits. There you go. We are on chapter 11 today. In the last chapter we read, Carter is at B.B. Bozzo's carnival with Layla and Ridley and Theo. And he's feeling a little nervous. First of all, because he doesn't want B.B. Bozzo's crew to see him there, because he knows that they're bad news. But Theo, Layla, and Ridley don't know that, and Carter hasn't told them. And the other reason why he's nervous is because he's really enjoying their friendship, and he's feeling happy in a way that he hasn't felt in so long. But he hasn't told them the truth about himself. He doesn't want to tell them that he's homeless, because he thinks they won't want to be his friend anymore. So let's continue reading and find out what happens. Carter's got himself in quite the predicament right now. Chapter 11. When the show ended, Carter felt relief wash over him. He and his friends were unharmed and intact. Throngs of people walked the main road back to the warm lights of their homes. It seemed half of Mineral Wells had attended tonight's show. But Carter was only concerned with three of them. Oblivious to his anxieties, Layla told jokes to Carter. He almost interrupted her several times to ask about her life in the orphanage. He wanted to tell her the truth about his own history. Instead, he laughed. Ridley and Theo trailed behind, discussing the likely mechanisms behind Bozzo's show. They were almost back to the magic shop when Theo turned pale. He stopped walking. "My bow is gone." He patted his pant leg again and again. Then he checked his jacket as though it might have ended up in there. It was nowhere to be found. So he's talking about his bow. Is he talking about like a hair bow? No. He's talking about his violin bow that he plays his violin with. "My lucky lockpicks," Layla said, her face dropping. "I always have them in my front pocket, but they've vanished." Ridley checked a hidden compartment in the arm of her wheelchair. "Layla, please tell me this is a joke. I need my notebook. My whole life is in there." "I'm sorry," Layla's voice cracked. "I'd never make a joke like this." Carter's heart raced. He had only one thing of true value. He opened his satchel and dug deep. What is this one thing of true value that he keeps in his satchel at all times? Do you remember? It's the box from his parents. The small wooden box was gone. In its place was a torn piece of paper. When Carter looked up, Theo, Layla, and Ridley also had torn pieces of paper in their hands. They put the 4 pieces together to form a note. It read, "You shouldn't have messed with the pockpickets. P.S. Carter, you should have joined Bozzo, not those misfits." So, all of their most prized possessions were stolen out of their pockets, and they've been left with this note from the pockpickets. Who do you think took all of their belongings? Was it probably the pockpickets? Sounds like it. What do they mean by joined Bozzo? Ridley asked, her eyes stabbing at Carter. Carter felt like someone had just pushed him off a cliff. "Last night, he asked me to join his gang," he admitted quickly and quietly. "Did you?" Theo asked. "Of course not." "How can we trust a word he says?" Ridley growled. "Now hold up," Layla said. "If Carter was with them, he wouldn't have been robbed too." "For all we know, this is part of his shtick," Ridley said. "He gets all friendly, robs us blind, and then pretends he got robbed too." "I don't steal," Carter shouted. "Yeah, right," Ridley yelled back. "And I just ride around in this chair for the fun of it." Layla and Theo stepped in between Carter and Ridley. "That's enough," the violinist said calmly. "Remember what the psychic lady said? We all have to work together," Layla added. "That was a bunch of hooey," Ridley spat. And it was Carter's idea to see the old lady. Maybe that's part of the whole deal. What whole deal? Carter defended himself. I'm not lying. Not at the moment, he thought, cringing at what he'd told them about staying at the resort on the hill. He found that he could barely look at Layla. That's probably a lie, too, Ridley went on. I'm going back for my journal. That's a terrible idea, Carter said. Bozzo has a whole army of goons. You don't stand a chance by yourself. Then we'll all go, Layla said. 4 against an entire carnival? Theo said. I think perhaps we need to contact the police and explain our situation. No, Carter yelped. Please, no cops. Why doesn't Carter want them to call the cops? If they find out that he's alone, without any family, what are they going to do? Send him back to his family. And who's his only family right now? Uncle Sly. Please, no cops. See, Ridley said, he is a thief. I am not. I'm a runaway. He finally told them. How do you think they're going to react? The night became suddenly quiet. Layla, Theo, and Ridley stared at Carter. Despite the darkness, he felt like a giant spotlight was on him. You don't have a home? Layla asked softly. No, Carter admitted. I have an uncle, but he isn't a good person. He wanted me to steal from people, but I wouldn't. So I ran away. I hopped a train and ended up here. I'm not a thief. But if you call the cops, I'll go away to foster care or worse. He checked Layla's face for reassurance, but her eyes were blank. She looked like she was lost in memory. They'll take me away from Mineral Wells and I'll never see any of you again. And I would hate that more than anything. I would never steal from any of you. I would never hurt you. You're the first friends I've ever had. You have to believe me. There was a long period of silence. Carter felt his heart sink further and further. His 3 new friends were going to walk away and he would be alone again. Then something unexpected happened. I believe you, said Layla. She hugged Carter. So do I, said Theo. He patted Carter on the back. Well, I don't, Ridley said, her arms crossed. But I'm willing to think about it. No one should be in foster care or live in an orphanage. Everyone deserves a home, Layla said sadly. She took a deep breath, then added, But you hopped a train? So neato. I cannot imagine what you've been through, Theo said. My condolences. I'm sorry you didn't tell us sooner, but I understand why you hesitated. I'm not sorry, Ridley said, arms still crossed. But it sounds like your life sucks. I can relate. She knocked her fist on the arm of her wheelchair. Truce? Truce, Carter beamed. He'd never felt such relief. He took a deep breath, his whole body shuddering. It felt like the first oxygen he'd ever inhaled. So how did they react? Did they walk away from Carter and say they wouldn't be friends with him again? No, they understood. They told him, you should have told us sooner, but, we understand and, we still want to be your friend. So did Carter handle it perfectly? Probably not. But his friends are showing a lot of kindness and compassion, and they want to help him. Where was I? But what do we do now? We have to get our stuff back. We do, Theo said. But it's late, we're tired, and we're 4 kids against an entire carnival of crooks. Cooler heads will prevail in the morning. I find one always works best after a good night's sleep, a shower, and a well-rounded breakfast. That's not how I would have put it, but fine, Ridley said. First thing in the morning. Agreed, Layla chirped. Since tomorrow's Saturday, let's meet at 10 at the magic shop. Everyone nodded. Ridley and Layla said goodnight, then went on their way. Carter was about to head back to the park when Theo asked, "Do you have a place to sleep?" "I can take care of myself," Carter said. He sounded tougher than he felt. "Unacceptable," Theo shook his head. "You are staying with me." And that's the end of our chapter. So that chapter was a little bit shorter, but a lot of important things happened in it. So first of all, BB Bozzo and his crew were able to sneakily steal all of their most prized possessions, right? Theo lost the bow to his violin. Layla lost her secret handcuffs. Ridley lost her secret notebook with all of her magic tricks in it. And Carter lost his box, which is the only thing that he has left from his parents. So these are all things that are super special to them that have been stolen by Bozzo's goons. And they also revealed in the note that they received that Bozzo had invited Carter to join his crew, which because of that kind of unraveled all of Carter's lies that he'd been telling about his life. And he ended up telling the truth about himself, that he's a runaway, that his uncle is a bad person, and he just kind of let it all out and finally was honest. And his friends were unsure at first. They were hesitant. They had to take all that information in. But in the end, they really wanted to just help Carter and do what's best for him, especially Layla and Theo. Ridley's a little bit tougher to win over, but even she offered a truce and wants to help Carter. And they've decided that they're not just going to let all their stuff be gone. They're going to try to get it back, but they want to get a night's rest, eat a great breakfast, make a plan, and figure something out in the morning. And at the end of the chapter, Theo even invited Carter to stay with him. So maybe we'll hear a little bit about that in the next chapter, chapter 12, and a little bit more about their plan to try to get all of their things back from Bozzo's crew. So we'll find out tomorrow when we read chapter 12. See you then.